Check, check, check. A little bit of echo there as we get ready. Okay, everybody ready to make some art? Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, let's see. Ba-da-doom! Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Michael Markowsky. I'm going to be your drawing teacher for the next hour and a half-ish or so. Sometimes, usually go a little bit later. And today is actually the final episode of our 40-episode our class course on how to draw. So this has been quite the journey for me, and if you go all the way back to the very first episode, none of this behind me was here. Over the course of, I guess it's like 5 months, I think we started this back in March, and here we are in September, all the way through the summer and into the fall, making art with you guys, and it's been so exciting. Next week, next Tuesday, begins our painting class. So I'm going to do 40 episodes, 5 months of showing you how to paint from scratch. So I'll put the link to that below. But if you're right now, you're watching me on YouTube. So if you click on, well, don't do it right now because you want to maybe wait till the very end. But afterwards, you could like and subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and you'll see there's already the first video for that acrylic painting class posted, which shows kind of some of the suggested materials that would work really well. Because I'm going to be showing you specifically how to mix different colors, so it helps to have those colors, because otherwise you're going to get different results than the ones that I'm going to get on screen. Anyway, I just looking at some of the comments coming in here, and Shamay is saying this is the first time she's been able to join the live class, and so that's really exciting to have you here today live with me, as opposed to, I'm assuming, watching the videos afterwards after they've been recorded, which is also really interesting. I get emails and private messages from people who've just started the class, so they're working their way forward in time, and they're sending me their images, or I see them on Instagram and all that. So, which is another reminder, if you have any drawings that you'd like me to check out, you want to send those to my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc., and make mention in the comments so that I can take a look at them and I can give you feedback as well. So, and even after the show's ended, you can still post those things in places, and then I'll, if you leave the comments in not the live comments, because that'll be long over, but below, I'll take a look and I'll tell you what I think as well. So, because I just love talking about art and looking at art. So anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about drawing landscapes. And on our previous class, we talked about drawing trees and we talked about drawing leaves, because obviously those are a major component of the landscape. And I showed you a few different ways that I use to draw very quickly to capture a space, a rural space, or a country space, or a wild foresty space. And today we are going to kind of do the whole, put all those pieces together to make one of those kind of spaces. And actually, I'm a little bit out of breath because I was just out filming a whole bunch of footage, and I'm going to play some of that footage during today's class. I filmed some trees and some stuff in parks, and then we're going to draw from some of that footage. And maybe some of those people that are still sitting on the park bench watching themselves, well, mostly it's just silhouettes and stuff in the park. But before we get there, what I like to do is a warm-up drawing. So let's, this is the wrong sketchbook. That's my sketchbook for the classes I teach at Emily Carr University, which just started this week. So I have this class ending this week. I have my classes, my university classes that I teach just started a couple days ago, and next week I'm starting my new YouTube classes. So a lot of stuff going on. And I also have a 1-year-old child, and I'm drawing a graphic novel. So I basically don't get any sleep. So let me see. Come on. I'm going to I don't know why that's not there, so let's bring this up. And I'm also going to, let me see, I want to find an image that we can start with. It won't be too overwhelming. Well, you know what? Let's do a quick little online search here, because the images that I have that I was going to use might be just a little bit too difficult for us to jump right in on. So I'm going to create another one of these here. There and there and there, save. Okay. So here's my window, and let's see, there's so many great landscape artists. So who would be, let's go look at Rembrandt drawing landscape. So I just punch it into Google there, Google Images, and then I often like to go here. Is that showing up here? I go to size, personally, and then I go to large, so that if I find an image I really like, I can drag it to my desktop and it's going to have lots of information. So Rembrandt, you know, one of the great titans of art, justifiably so. And you could see, let's, it's going to take, might be a little tough. Looking for something not too tricky, or something tricky that we can simplify relatively easily here. So this is self-portraits of Rembrandt. When we were talking about self-portraits and drawing portraits, I talked about Rembrandt a bit because he's kind of one of the famous portraitists of all time. Let's check out this as well. It's a nice big drawing, so I'm going to pull it onto my desktop, and then I'm going to open it up. Wow, look at that. Beautiful. Oh my goodness. For me, this is just like eye candy. When I see this work, and we're not going to draw this thing in that much detail. Have no fear. Come on. Scoot you over. Okay. So I'm going to make a view here where we're going to see my sketchbook and this image. And I'll draw along with everybody. Okay, and so maybe just before I launch into this drawing, why would I choose this image? You saw me scanning through a whole bunch of them. One is that there's a tree that's featured quite prominently in this image, and since we worked on trees last week, I want to use this image. You know, we have this kind of little pathway going into the image, and that's one of the things that when we're drawing landscapes, it's always nice to have a path for the eyes to move deeper and deeper into the space. So when we talk about landscapes, we usually want to see depth in the image. I can't even think off the top of my head. It might be an interesting kind of exercise for somebody who wants to question the history of landscape art. But I can't think of too many images that look very flat, or that they are, let's say, a tree against a brick wall or something. Usually, when we do landscape pictures, we want to see something kind of close, something and something far away, and then something in between. So what we would have is a foreground, middle ground, and background. Or I guess it's reversed for you. So that would be foreground, middle ground, and background. So in this image, the tree acts as our foreground image or subject. And then these houses in the middle here are our middle ground. And then this stuff in the background is in the background. Right? So a lot of the times people think about background. I think a lot of people have heard that, background, in photographs or whatever. And some people have heard of foreground, right? But even a lot of artists forget about the middle ground and what happens in here. So sometimes we just have two things, and we want more and more space in there because you want to think of, like, when you're creating a landscape, you're creating a space for the viewer to enter, to go into and get, mentally, visually sucked into that space, just as you would if you were to walk into that space, right? And you're like on your Sunday morning walk, and you're just sort of putzing around and kind of looking, spying on the neighbors, that kind of stuff, right? So you kind of want that effect. You want viewers to feel that way when they look in there, that they want to look through people's windows and over fences and through, keyholes and all that kind of stuff, right? Okay, so let's work on this drawing here. I've got my sketchbook open, and I think I'm going to keep it like let's do it. So we're going to turn the sketchbook to what's called the landscape format. And I'm just going to back that out just a bit so that you can see the whole sketchbook. There we go. And as you know, or may know, I often use a orange pencil to start, and then after I've got some of the stuff drawn, I go in with my blue to highlight or to finish the drawing off. So I'm just going to put all those tools there for you. So, and I'm just going to double check that, okay, that nothing catastrophic has happened. So where do I even begin with this drawing? Rembrandt's put a lot of detail in there. So what I like to do is I'm going to create a bit of a window or a border or a frame. And I'm actually just going to try to recreate a little bit of that effect of these curved, or that top part being kind of arched in some way. Okay. I'm going to take just a little sip of tea to reward myself for that awesome frame I just drew. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start plotting things out pretty quickly. So rather than getting into the weeds and the leaves here, I want to look for the horizon line, which you may remember from, I think, our third episode when we talked about perspective, geometric perspective. So you can see this little area here, that would be our horizon line. And then of course it's getting hidden by these houses and this big tree. I could just draw this little bit here, but I just find it helpful to have that drawn out throughout the bottom. Okay, so let's find where this tree trunk is. And if I even think, okay, I did this here, from here to here, and it's not scientific, but let's say I could even think of this being the middle of the drawing, and maybe I'll even, just for everyone's sake, quick dotted line here. I'll do that a little darker. Remember, a few people have said I'm not drawing dark enough. Okay, so if I think about this here, it's almost the same distance, right, to this tree, right? So that tree is somewhere in this area here, right? One of those branches comes there, one of those branches here, I got another kind of branch here, right? So that's a tree. Now there's more stuff I can put in here. Obviously I'm going to do more detail on that tree, but before I do, I'm just going to also put in a few more details. There's, where is this? There's this thing, I don't know what that is, like a post for tying your horse to or something, I don't know. So I just made a little quick mark for where that is. You know, and if I look at the middle of the drawing, that's somewhere right there, right? So if this is in the middle of my drawing, then over here is kind of this house, you know, that's a farm, or who knows exactly what this would have been, but it's right there. And so it kind of seems to go across here. Kind of a longish kind of thing. And I'm not sure that that's exactly correct or that these angles are all right, but I'm just plotting things out. We've got another one, I think, right next to it, and then another one right next to it. And then this one is going to be this smaller, so I might have to adjust that. And then this one is also a little bit smaller, so I'm going to make some adjustments. Right? The other thing is this pathway, right, which kind of comes right past somewhere in this vicinity, right? And it's very small. I think it curves around here. I can't quite tell. And we don't have to do this perfectly either, right? We can, yours can be different than Rembrandt's. Right, so maybe that house isn't going to be quite so long, right? Maybe it's much closer to that horizon line, right? It could be a little bit higher up here. And again, that's why doing this kind of stuff at the beginning is helpful, because let's say I started really drawing that building, that house in with a lot of detail, and then I realized, whoa, I've made it too big. What do? Do I drop the bottom border down, or which I could do, but I'd much rather sort a lot of this stuff out now than later. Right, so if this is let's say the bottom for now of the house, that other one is going to be just a little bit further up and a little further up, so that they're kind of staggered a bit. Okay, and then there's these little posts on the top of their houses. I'm not sure. So this Rembrandt was a Dutch artist who lived, let's say if I can guess off the top of my head, he lived, let's say 1580 to 1630 would be my guess. And let's just indulge me for 1 second here. Rembrandt. Oh, so here we are, 1606 to 1669. So I was in the ballpark. He was technically alive during the time I said. Where did that image go? Okay, so we've got a few things laid out here. Let's draw this tree. Remember, this is our warm-up drawing. I know there's probably a few people who are like, oh, I'm already lost. Just keep on going here. Don't worry about making it perfect. I'm simplifying this picture for our sake here. Right? Last time we talked about the difference between a branch kind of going in behind like this, and then let's say, I think it looks like there's this other big long one, right? And let's say that branch kind of appearing, because it's kind of hard to see the way I've done it, but, or even right here, this kind of going in front of the other branch, so that this appears to be forward, and this one's kind of going backwards. Okay. So again, I'm even, let's say I'm gonna set a timer here, because sometimes I get a little bit, I go too far. So here, let's 10 minutes. We'll spend 10 minutes on this drawing maximum, and then we're gonna move forward onto something else. So this was, I don't even honestly, you know, again, so this is an interesting situation, because what is this shape here? And so this thing that he's got going in here, that looks to me, that's obviously some kind of tree that's in behind this house, but there is some confusion that it might act, that, you know, when I first look at it, it kind of looks like it might be the leaves from this tree, but that would be ridiculous, right? Because this tree is in front of this house, and then these leaves, so these are two different trees. So personally, I'm going to change things up a little bit, and I am going to so-called fix this Rembrandt drawing and kind of make it a little bit more legible, I guess. So it's also useful, and let's just zoom in on these marks that he's got going here. So these are the leaves that he's drawn in this area, right? So you could see his little quick marks that he's got going, right? They're very fast marks, right there. And I'll just kind of mimic a little bit of that for us. And I'm just gonna skim over here. So you see, this is when I was talking about shorthand, right? And every artist develops their own kind of shorthand. I mean, let's put a little tree up, you know, some branches. Every artist kind of comes up with their own little system or style in order to draw quickly, right? So I have my own particular kind of style, and it kind of evolves and changes. Like there's often I'll be working on a drawing and I decide, you know what, the way my style works doesn't really work for this situation, right? So I'm just gonna kind of start you know, experimenting with things and see if I can make something work here, right? So you can see he's kind of got these quick little tiny strokes that look like, you know, again, if we just keep on zooming in, I mean, they're sort of meaningless blobs. They certainly don't look like leaves, right? They look like maybe little heart shapes, these little squiggles and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just gonna keep backing that out until we get back to normal right here. So you know, then he's got some of these diagonal lines. Well, maybe when I get to my blue pencil, I'll do a little bit more of that. But I think that's pretty good for there. Now I'm going to just tackle this house here really quickly. So here's the roof, right? And then there's, you know, it looks maybe like an earthen roof, or what would you call that? Like, you know, looks like hay or some kind of something on there that looks pretty organic, right? It doesn't look like shingles or anything, right? And since I want this to go in behind, I'm going to make this go like that, just like his drawing. And I am going to put some diagonal lines like this over there to kind of help suggest that direction, right? And we've got this part of the house here, some more vertical lines. I guess I could be doing this with my blue if I was to kind of finish things off. I'm kind of consolidating all of this into one drawing. There's a door right here with a bush, and then we decided there was going to be this thing there. Okay. One of the tricky things I often find about trees is how to deal with where the trees meet the ground and the roots. And so sometimes I will put, I'm going to put actually the other side of that building right there. And then, I don't know, I want to think about this area in that tree there. So I'm going to do another one of these houses. I'm going to simplify all of this here because I got just under 5 minutes, and I really want to try to stick to that for today. You know, it looks like there's some activity, some people out there, and then over here there's some things, another couple buildings maybe. I don't know, make a little thing like that. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to transition to my blue pencil here. And I'm just going to spend a second with this pathway. And you can see the way I'm trying to just keep like a loose kind of line here. Because this is not a paved road. This is, you know, you can almost see the muddy ruts from the wagons that were going back and forth here carrying, I don't know, hay or milk, or, you know, I don't know what was going on in this little village at the time. So, you know, this is, and it's a little bit darker too, so I'm just going to quickly shade that in. You could see the background. See how it's very kind of lightly drawn, right? It's not very dark. So that makes it look far away because it looks like there's atmosphere in between, right? So if you ever, you know, if you go hiking and you stand at the top of a big hill or a mountain, and then you look down, you know, the grass and the rocks right in front of you and your feet, all of that are going to be, you know, in sharp focus, and they're going to be maybe darker, more saturated colors, all those sort of things. You know, even if you're taking a photograph on your phone or whatever. And then the mountains and things as things that are furthest from you, you'll notice they look maybe slightly out of focus, but the color is dull, right? They lose the intensity of color. They look kind of a little bit foggy or misty, and that's the atmosphere that's in between you and those objects, right? So those are the actual, like the water in the air. You know, just because there aren't clouds there doesn't mean there's not a kind of a thick atmosphere. Versus, let's say, the moon, right? You could take a pretty sharp photograph of the moon, and everything is going, you know, again, this gets into details about photography, and by the way, I taught a photography course here on YouTube. You can also find that on my page. And assuming there's not, like, you're using a very shallow depth of field, but you would see everything, you know, in nice sharp focus, as, you know, for miles or kilometers into the distance, because there's virtually no atmosphere whatsoever, right? It's all, there's no oxygen, there's no water, there's no clouds kind of getting in the way and softening up the image. Okay, I got 37 seconds left here on my timer, so we're gonna move on shortly here. So I've kind of put, let's say, I'm gonna do a few more See, so I'm kind of now drawing in front of some of those, the branches. You know, I should have maybe put a few coming in front of this one, but, and there's no reason I still can't, but, you know, maybe sometimes they kind of pop back out. I wonder if my wife and daughter are home. I hear some noise up there, but that could be the neighbors. Our daughter had her her shots today, 1 year shots, and I think 4 shots today at her. She's just over 1 year old. So, little, I wonder if she's a little bit sore. But I don't hear any screaming or crying or anything, so. Okay, so I'm going to move on here in just a second since my timer's out. And this maybe even have been this is a pretty complicated warm-up drawing, to be honest. So if you're like, oh, I don't know, this is the warm-up for today's class, I am up the creek already, and we're only, 30 minutes in. So, maybe just before I do move on, if I was to really complete this drawing, a few of the things, I'll just kind of, so he's got this shadow kind of coming across, and it's kind of a nice, you can see how dark it is, right? This dark shadow, and this area starts getting really dark. There's a shadow from these houses kind of going across the road here. Under here, there's shadows. And again, I'm just doing this really quickly so we can see this tree. Obviously, I'm going to omit that other tree in behind. If I would probably draw it right here and just create some separation so that there's not a confusion as to which tree is which. And then there is, I don't know what else, another part of tree here, or a big hay bale, or I don't know what's going on in behind there. But again, you can see why it's nice to have this horizon line kind of continue a little bit here. So, and then you could see how lightly that is done here. So progressively, as things get closer to us into the foreground, they're going to get darker. They're going to get more detailed. They're going to just appear to be sharper. We're going to spend more time drawing them. Versus as things go further and further back, we want them to kind of get a little bit, a little rougher looking. Okay. And so again, here's I can even, let's just for the sake of this, so I'm going to label it for us too. So we've got, how could I label this best? I'm going to put here, background. Middle ground. And foreground. Okay. And what's nice about labeling your drawings like that is that it's sort of it's a kind of a great excuse for it. If you're not happy with your drawings, you just start labeling them, and then they look like they're like sketches for something else rather than finished drawings that you may have quote unquote messed up on. So you're like, oh no, I meant to do that because this is just a teaching image here where I was learning about background, middle ground, and foreground. Right? Okay. So let's move on here to find an image that would be good. Okay. So this next thing, here's a couple of images that we're going to work from. And I'm going to put both of them here. I can't quite fit them both on there like that. Oh well. Okay. I'm just such a perfectionist with this kind of stuff. I wanted it to kind of fit, just so. Oh, you can't. Well, you can't see anyway, so good. You can't see me fumbling around with these images. Okay, move my sketchbook over. So the next thing that. Oh, perfect. Okay. So here's a couple of images that we're going to draw, and we'll draw both of them, or well, I'll draw both of them. Maybe if you want, you can draw one of them, and I'll show you kind of how I would draw both of them. Maybe that's a good idea, and I'll try to draw both of them relatively quickly, and then let me see. Let's get to that here. Where's that? So I'll help start these drawings for you. So you can see I've chosen two different images that are very, very different in style. Just because, and I suggest you maybe ultimately try doing both of these. So I'll do the first one up top, because sometimes people, well, everybody, has different styles and things that they're attracted to, right? Different senses of taste, and that's going to come through in your approach to drawing. So, a little bit wonky, Michael, but I'm not gonna fuss too much, and I say that as I spend 20 minutes trying to make a nice oval. Okay, so how would I get this image up top into here? And let's say I'll put 10 minutes on the clock here. And if anything, I want to get the composition of this image locked in let's say the next minute. So maybe one of the first things I would do is let's try to locate the middle of this image. And I would draw that fairly lightly so I could erase it, or it just disappears into my drawing. But when I see that, it looks to me like that's the beginning of this pathway. This kind of S shape, right? And once I've got that, that's going to help things a lot, right? I mean, maybe it's a little bit below center, but, honestly, who cares, right? So I'm going to draw one hill here, and it kind of looks, I'm not exactly sure how all this is working, but we've got this kind of hill, right? And then come to the other side here, and we've got another kind of hill going off there. Okay. And then I've got, looks like another hill or some kind of streak or something, pathway maybe. Maybe it's a field, a farmer's field maybe over there. And then another one going crossing. And then I've got this, it looks like it comes a little bit in front of the pathway, right? Over here. And then another one like that. Okay. So I'm not even going into the details or anything yet. I want to get this here. Okay. And then I got a mountain. I'm going to start with the mountain that appears kind of closest to us. And I'm just going to draw that. We've got another one kind of here, down, there. Got another one here. Got something here, and then another one here and here. And then I've got a sun here, and then from there, this radiating sun rays. All right. Okay. Just scooting that up so maybe you can see the bottom of the... Okay. So that is the main original part of the composition for this drawing. Once I've got some of that in, then I can kind of add some of these details. These. So some people really like this particular image, drawing it because it's very, what we call graphic, right? You know, you could make print this on a t-shirt quite easily, right? It lends itself to that quite well. You know, I realized here there's another mountain. I'm just going to get rid of it. I'm just going to, who cares? Let's see. Okay, and then on here, there's, I don't know, this looks like maybe little trees or something. And you can see they're kind of drawn like, what do they call those, lady fingers or something? Like candies. So I'm just going to quickly populate that area with those kind of shapes. Obviously, it's easier to kind of do the ones in the front than it is to start from the back and go forward. So, all right, and then this pathway, I got these. Okay, so that's, I guess it took me about 5 minutes for that sketch. So I'm actually gonna move on to the other one and work on that one for 5 minutes, just in case people want to do both of these, because I do have some other videos I want to get to. So I'm just gonna start those 2 sketches, and maybe you want to also, you know, start 2 drawings, and then you can always kind of come back and finish them later on. Okay, so how do I get the bottom image onto here? Okay, well, again, let's say I just quickly identify where the middle of the picture is. And it is a little bit, the original's, you know, a little bit more like letterbox format than this one. That's okay. In the middle, it looks like, you know, there's a pathway there and everything. So maybe I'll just kind of quickly put that in there. All right, so I'll put this here, and then we would have this other pathway coming out, and then we've got, looks like this pathway coming this way, and there's a river here, and these are kind of some log bridge, right? And maybe this pathway could even get wider as it comes closer to us. We got this hillside here, and this here, maybe. Okay, and then in behind we have one more hill, and you see this little pathway worming its way up to the top of this castle. And I'm going to quickly draw where the castle would be. So let's say here's this turret on of the castle. And then down here we got another one of these. I think it's a slightly different shape, but again, we're still just kind of, I'm not too concerned about drawing the architecture here. That would be another video, which, by the way, one of the things, another reason why you would want to subscribe to the channel is that today was, as I was out filming natural landscapes, I was thinking, you know what, I should film some cityscapes, some seascapes, and then, you know, every once in a while make a new video showing how to draw a cityscape or how to draw a seascape, and etc. So I might just, you know, randomly announce like, hey, I'm making a video on how to draw you know, neon signs and all that kind of stuff in a downtown. If you want to watch that, you know, it'll be, you know, let's say episode 41 of the show. Okay, so you see I'm just putting in these trees. There's more of them that I could put in there, but this is, you know, that took me 4 minutes to lay out. Everything's not perfect in here, but now I've got, you know, literally like a roadmap in front of me that can guide me. Now it's like filling in the details, which maybe is easier than it sounds, but doing this would be way, way easier than if I just said, okay, just draw this picture, and then, or you know, the image down here, and just put it on your. People are like, oh, when I've seen people do that, you know, somebody's going to spend 10 minutes getting this little bridge done. Okay, so and this is also, both of these images are great examples of foreground, middle ground, and background. Right, so this area up here would be your foreground, right? These trees, and you can even see how they're darker, right? We even have this little darker tree here hanging in the foreground, right? And then as we go into the middle ground, this tree here, this part of the pathway, this is your middle ground. And then the castle and this hill and the sky are in the background. Right? And you can see how progressively lighter shades they get. Now, for the drawing on the top, obviously is different in that, you know, everything is the same level of darkness, right? But at the same time, this area here of the pathway, you know, it's wider, there's more detail in it than here, right? There's just one little dot, couple little dots here versus a whole bunch of them, right? You know, so there's all of these, I don't know, trees, or maybe they're little houses, I'm not exactly sure, but these trees here, we see them, and I'm assuming there's also going to be trees and things on these mountains, but we don't see them. They haven't been drawn in there because they would just be so small that the artist has omitted all that detail and just given us some of these diagonal lines, right? So, you know, again, you're simplifying things as you go deeper and deeper into the space of the drawing. You know, I think I'm gonna move on from these drawings rather than complete them, because what I would like to do is to look at some of the images that I shot today. And so maybe I'll just leave that up here for a second. It's like literally so fresh that I haven't had a chance to you know, even look at the footage. We'll probably just be playing these off the SD card on my camera here, or from my camera. Okay. Oops. Is this my videos? Okay, cool. So how should I do this? So that you can see, because these are landscape format videos. Oh, I should have. Now that stopped the music, didn't it? Okay. Where's the music? Let's delete that. And let's open this up in a different program here. QuickTime. I'm curious, that playing a few different things at the same time might cause the audio to skip a little bit because it's doing so much work. I think, let me see, why don't I make this full size? And then let me create another one of these picture in picture. This will be interesting. Let's see. So what if I put it up here? Now this video, you know, I was thinking as I was filming these, what I'm going to do is, or maybe should I do it the other way? Maybe, let's see, what if I instead do picture in picture. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud to myself. Anyway, so I was thinking what I'm going to do is upload a video of just the raw video that I shot today that we can, people can watch and sketch to if they want. And I was even thinking maybe I'll create a little competition or something to give away for some kind of, for some art. Okay, you know what, and maybe even before I'm just gonna show this image on its own. So this, and it's kind of, I'm not sure how it's showing up on your screen. It looks a little bit dark. So when I put this up, it'll be brighter, but that's okay because that's also gonna help us focus less on the details in the shadows here and on the big picture. So as I'm looking at this, you know, what do I want to draw here? We see a lot of different things. We see, you know, people sitting on their blankets, sun tanning. There's this sculpture, which if you are familiar with Vancouver, is a famous sculpture in Vancouver called, I'm not even sure what the original title is, but it's often referred to as the dude, or the chilling dude, or the dude chillin'. And this whole park is unofficially referred to as Dude Chillin' Park. It has an actual proper name on maps, but so many people refer to it as Dude Chillin' Park that you could, even on, like on Google Maps, they've changed or to dude chilling. And I know some people are saying, but there's a sign saying dude chill and park, which I've got a video of as well too. So, but anyway, maybe I'll talk about that as I'm drawing. So, what do I want to draw in this image? I've got this nice tree over here, so I might kind of jump back and forth, and I might draw really big and heavy on here so that we can see. Okay, so I got my sketchbook open. I'm going to draw a little frame on my sketchbook, as you know I want to do. And because of that, I'll zoom in a little bit more. Okay. So, again, I'm going to divide this. I'm going to draw darker just so it's nice and visible because it's kind of small on your screen. So you probably wouldn't want to draw these lines as dark as I am, but I'm going to... So, if I look at the image, the road itself, the actual road, and maybe I should use a different... I'll just kind of... The road itself, and it almost kind of slopes up a little bit like that in behind. Okay, and then we've got this, there's the sculpture right here, which seems to, and the road I can kind of think of as my horizon line for our purpose. Now, probably the actual horizon line is maybe a little bit higher up here, but this sculpture kind of is in this vicinity, right in the middle, right? So let's draw this in here. I'm going to draw the platform that it's on. And those of you who've done perspective with me, you can see how this would recede back to some kind of point over here. And then there's this figure, which it's kind of hard to see again in the original, but it's kind of this it's like it was originally a log that God, I can't quite see in this photograph here. It's so dark. So I think so it was made of wood. I think it goes something like this. And then there's this other piece that goes over top. Right? So it was logs, actual wood, and then recently it was started to kind of fall apart, so they took it away and cast it in bronze, and then recently replaced it and put it back there. So, because it's been so beloved of a sculpture. So there's the dude. So you can kind of see it coming up over the, if we even think of the middle as our horizon line, so it's a little bit higher up there. And then I'm going to draw this tree here. And I can see these kind of branches look like they're kind of going from in behind. There's one there. I'm just going to stagger this one. I can't quite exactly see how they're... maybe this... looks like this one was actually crossing around here. Very few people are going to take this drawing and try to compare it to the original, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. Now, in reality, when I shot another video where I was a little bit further away, and there's more trees kind of in next to me. So I can draw this picture exactly like it is, or if I wanted, I could put some other things. I could draw another tree right in front here, so big that maybe I see the bark on the tree and a bug crawling up the tree, or not. The way that I've cropped this picture, I've allowed for a lot of space up front, which I'm not too happy with, to be honest. So, because there's not a lot going on in this area. So, and maybe this is going to drive people nuts, but I'm going to abandon this drawing and I'm going to start a new one. Which happens, right? Because I think I'm going to move that sculpture down. So let's say this is, which is what happens, you know, when you're drawing, and some people, it just drives them nuts, but once, let's say this is my horizon, I'm going to keep my horizon line here. I'm going to draw this here. Now, I find that if I have to draw something a second time, I'm way better at it, right? Because I've already done a lot of the thinking that's required to make this artwork happen. And maybe if you were drawing along, maybe you're like, this guy driving me nuts. We started drawing as I was just getting going. It's not going to be too different than the one that you got going there. You just see how I've moved the sculpture a little bit further forward so that my foreground, which was it was almost like previously, let's say if I go back, like it's almost like this was actually more like the middle ground. And then I had this big empty foreground space. And, you know, I could, you know, with this drawing, take it and, you know, there was some people suntanning there. You know, I could add them here. And since this is a video, maybe I'll wait till I can see this guy. You know, maybe I'll put them there. But they're not in a place that I like right now, so I've moved my sculpture down. You know, there is a guy sitting here having a sandwich that I'm just going to take right out of the picture. Right, I'm going to draw this tree here, and then I'm going to kind of fix it a little bit. I think it actually went like this, didn't it? Okay. So, and then I've got, let's say, this road that goes kind of back here, which, you know, originally in the previous drawing I had sort of in behind that arm of the figure. Well, you know, I could still do that, but what I'm going to do is add, I'm going to put a big tree here. Let's say there's another big tree in behind here. And I'm going to make another one of these. I'm just going to move that whole image over. And then we've got more trees. There's lots of trees. Maybe some smaller ones over here. So again, what's happening, I've got a foreground and then I've got a background with these trees, but I don't really have too much middle ground in here in my drawing, right? In the video itself, this is clearly the foreground. Right, that guy standing up now, maybe I'll do a quick sketch of, you know, say here's his swimming trunks and his legs, his body and his head, hat. He's standing here, right? There's somebody. I see there's a family right here, so maybe I'm going to put them here sitting on the blanket. Maybe just one guy for now. A little blanket. This guy's got his own blanket. And now this is a park, so there's no pathway in here, but you could put one in there. when I teach classes, we often walk to this park and start drawing here, and I say to people, do something imaginative in that middle ground, like put a river in here, or put a park in there, or put some hills in there. Do something to kind of complicate it a little bit, right? Other little things, you could see these trees hanging down in front, in the video. My instinct would be to remove them from my drawing, just because I have this tree up front, which is my kind of it's like foreground, middle ground, and that might be enough. If I put stuff here, I feel like I would need another tree on this side to kind of join it up, because otherwise they're just sort of like, these tree branches and leaves that are flying through the sky, right? And I'd like to ground them somewhere. I try not to have too many things, just because that's more photographic. That would be, and those are things that would give your drawing away as being based on a photograph. And there's not necessarily something wrong with that, but I would like to have, I'd like it to look more like it was so-called more real, or that it looked like I was there rather than drawing in person. Now, I'm fudging a little bit of stuff here because I can't see. But say this is a tree in the background. And here's kind of some branches I've got kind of showing up in here. And I'm just sort of drawing some of the branches that are appearing in through the leaves, right? Let's say I'm just going to draw this guy. He's moving around and doing some stuff. I'm having him stand on his blanket there. I'm sure as soon as I finish this drawing and I'll look at the sculpture, I'm like, he totally got it wrong. But because it's so dark, I couldn't see those details, but whatever. One of the things I think to myself is like, it's just art. It's not brain surgery. No one's going to die if my drawing doesn't turn out. And some people are like, well, yeah, it's easy for you to say. I've just carved out an hour in my day that I could be doing other things or working or hanging out with friends. And now I did a drawing that didn't turn out. Well, that's one way to look at it. I would not say that hour was wasted time. Even if the drawing turned out to be completely unlike anything that you wanted, I would absolutely not say that was a wasted hour of your time. You may not feel that you've learned anything, but boy, oh boy, you sure have, right? And another way of thinking about it is, learning to ride a bicycle, or learning to ski, right? Or snowboard, or anything, any activity, or piano, right? You sit down at a piano and you take a piano lesson, and you may come out of it not really feeling like you've learned anything, but you're certainly better than when you started, and you would have had to have gone through that experience to ultimately be able to play, at Carnegie Hall or whatever, right? It's part of the necessary growth process that you have to kind of go through in order to eventually be able to draw in a way that you wanted. So, you know, you have to put that time in. Like I remember years and years ago, I'm going to switch this view and put that over this way so I can work on this tree. Years and years ago, I wanted to learn how to snowboard, or I had done some snowboarding when I was very young, kind of when snowboarding was really, really new. And actually, I'm going to move this tree branch in front here. And let's put this tree branch in front, just for fun. And so what I did is I rented a snowboard. I grew up in Calgary, and I remember one winter, because I think there was a bunch of my friends were going snowboarding or something, and I was like, oh, I want to go, but I don't know how to snowboard. So I just rented a snowboard, and just there was like a, you know, like a toboggan hill, a little hill that was covered in snow near our house, and just, you know, I waited till like 1 in the morning. You know, I don't know, 17 or something, or I don't know how old I was at the time. And I waited till 1 in the morning so I could be sure there wasn't anybody I would know or meet, or because I knew I was going to make a fool out of myself. So I just went there, and I fell and I fell and I fell and I fell, like probably until sunrise. And eventually I was able to go all the way down this hill, and all the way down being like, you know, 10-second run, you know, having to climb back up each time. And when I was finally able to do it, like, that was the most satisfying experience you could possibly ever or imagine, just because, you know, because I knew I had to go through a certain amount of pain in order to get it, right? So, you know, right now, obviously, I'm making stuff up here, folks, right? I'm just, you know, I should have set my timer because I have no idea what time it is. So I'm going to put some more trees in behind here. And this is pretty loose right now, but I could keep on working on this drawing for a while and massage it into something that I like. Obviously, I'm not going to have time to sit here and work on it for a long time, but you know, I don't know how long I've spent on this. Probably, let's say 10 minutes, right? And I did a previous version that I wasn't happy with. So this would be the only, you know, I tell people not to cross out their drawings or to throw them out, because maybe I can go back to this, or I can kind of turn this into something kind of silly, or I can experiment. Like, just for the sake of things, let's throw a big tree right in the foreground, right? So now this is our foreground image, right? And I'm just making trees up. I love drawing trees. So let's say this is here, and we got and, you know, maybe there's something else here. You know, I see that guy kind of crouching here on using his phone, so maybe I'm gonna draw him here, and I'll put him and his dog right here. Now, just as I've done that, I realize that makes this sculpture look humongous, because he's still kind of small. So I think I need to make him bigger. So, right, if I want to have him doing his crouching thing, he would probably have to be bigger, right? So again, now this becomes, rather than this drawing that I've messed up, you know, I'm working my ideas out in real time here and trying to kind of, okay, because now this feels like this works, and I could keep on working on it and try to make it work, In fact, a little while ago, I had, or for when I was teaching my university students, I started using some ink. So let me get some ink out. Oh, come on. Oh, cool. So this here, I remember my dad gave me this, I don't know, a long time ago, probably 15 years ago, and probably be surprised I still have it around. And I'm going to put a little bit of ink in here. So, oops, a little. This is why you should always have. So what this is Sumi ink. And you can see it's quite a big jar of it. That thing I've probably had for a decade too, that ink. So I'm just going to, you can see getting, this stuff just starts going all over the place. But I am going to, since this is our last class, just play a little bit. So let's say we've got this guy here and his hat. And he's kind of so small that I can't really figure out what he's up to. Oh, he's not wearing a t-shirt or anything. He's on his phone. And he's crouched down. And he does have a little dog that was there, but maybe I'm just going to add his little dog here. In front and make it look like he's taking a picture of his dog. And here. Oh, of course my battery overhead just died. So for those of you that are drawing that image, I'm just gonna, what happened? Ah! Just putting, get some power going to that. Come on. Come on, okay. So again, here's the situation. What's fun about using a brush is we can just, especially ink, I can kind of be quite wild with how I paint this whole scene. And so this is, I would still consider what I'm doing as drawing rather than painting. Ink is you know, you can use, I've got ink pens that I can put this kind of ink into. Just like I've shown images of Van Gogh and his ink images, right? But this will allow me, let's say, we've got shadows coming from that side, so I'm just going to, I can really, oh, Michael, what are you doing here? Personally, I know this would be pretty scary for some of you to kind of, because I'm kind of, Oh, okay, so sorry about that. I don't know how long that was not functioning. Sorry about that. Sorry, I don't know how long I've just been babbling to myself. Just been talking away to myself, having a conversation, which is probably not too different than normal, right? So this is again, not sure how long ago I left everybody behind, but this was originally the drawing that I had. Oh, you see all the junk up on the screen here. Let's just go to here, or it's another view. Back that back out. See, I just get totally carried away with drawing, you know, or painting, or making the whole process of art making, which is kind of what you want to happen. Here I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna get stuff all over my face, which is not bad when you're by yourself, but if you're here and there's people watching you, it looks a little bit funny. But that's, you know, the fact that I lose track of time and I forget that I'm even like doing this, and I just start painting away, is sort of why I like making art. Is time just starts to disappear, and it's just like fiddling around on the page. You know, I look at this thing that I've created. Is this the best thing I've ever done? Probably not. Is it? But do I hate it? No. I actually feel like, you know, when I've talked about like that. The roller coaster aspect of art making, there's been times in this image, and you can see I'm just sort of doing a kind of dry brush technique here, because I'm trying to get a little bit of darkness up here. Actually, well, here, let me. I'm trying to get as much of my water drink as possible. I'm going to put a little bit of ink in here. And then I can use this to darken in some areas. Now this is probably going to cause me a little bit of problems because it's going to take a little bit of time to draw, or to dry. But this I should have maybe done a little bit more of earlier on, rather than just going for full black and white. But let's see. Oh, and of course the pencils that I'm using are water-soluble pencils too, so they're mixing in here. So there's a lot of unexpected chance things that are occurring in this drawing in today's episode. But maybe part of today's episode and what we can learn from it is embracing the unexpected, and not being so fixated on outcomes, or being fixated on the outcome you think you're going for, and embracing the outcome that is outcoming, or that has come, or whatever you want to say. So this is a interesting drawing. Let me see, it's still a little wet, so let me just I'm gonna soak up a few little pieces here. So I can turn the page, because some of these areas are, these big blobs could take a little bit of time to dry. Okay. Yeah, I feel like that what's fun to me about this is I was intending to do something maybe more like that, and I feel like this drawing is a little bit wild, a little bit out of control, but I'm happier with the way it turned out than this one, right? And I wouldn't have known that until I did it. So let's just, I'm going to put a piece of paper here so that I can move forward. Okay. What are we doing? 5:37. Let's, I guess this, my microphone died. I thought I had charged that up. Okay, well. So what's one more? I'm going to find another video here that I shot today. Where is it? So let's make this full screen. Turn that volume down. And let's bring it on screen. So I think I'll show you what this raw footage looks like, and just sort of talk over it while it's so here is, this is a view in the same park, this dude chilling park, and you can see me it's shaking a little bit because I'm actually attaching another camera to the tripod to film in different angles, so that will stop momentarily. Maybe I'll just jump ahead. Okay, now we don't have all that shaking. And you can see there's this big tree on the other side of the park, and you'll see people walking back and forth in front of the video, and would have been nice to have had her. Maybe I was kind of hoping, I thought she stayed there a little bit longer, because I was thought it would be kind of neat to have, because right now, let's say if I go I want to be able to let's say I'm going to try doing a drawing like this, and I'm going to do a vertical version of in my sketchbook. Okay, so let's move this here. I'm going to pull up my pencils again, and we'll move the ink away. I think you saw how that works, and let's set up a timer here for 10 minutes. So often landscape artwork is done in the landscape format, but I'm going to turn my sketchbook this way and do one portrait format. And let's say, okay, so let's put the horizon line is kind of low. So here's my horizon line. And so that horizon line, you know, is, let me see if I get the horizon line, you know, the actual horizon would be somewhere in this vicinity, almost like where you see this post, right? So these things are in front of the horizon line. So that tree, I'm going to put, you know, the tree, and there's like a fence or something around here. It starts right up here. So I'm going to have this big tree that kind of goes all the way up, comes down here, and I think it kind of does this kind of thing, and then it kind of looks like there's this kind of thing, thing being big branches, and you know, I'm just going to now do kind of the shape of this tree. Alright, so there's this big tree here. Now, what else do I want to include on here? I like this other tree in the background, so I'm going to include that. And there's these people relaxing in the park, and they're you know, like in reality they're over here, but I'm gonna put them in the foreground. And so I'm gonna say, sort of like we had with the dude chilling here, I'm gonna put them right here, and they are, I think it's a couple. I think there's like a guy laying this way and a woman laying this way. Now, I can't really see them, so I'm just going to kind of invent. I mean, I see like one leg up here, and then I think there's another leg over here, torso, and I think she's reading a book over her head like this. Right, so what I'm doing is I'm recomposing this image. Right, so I'm taking, you know, this video, you know, is, you know, there's stuff over here, there's another person over there, and there's more people right there, right? And this is just like reality, in that when you go out into the world and you start wanting to look at something to draw, you have a lot of options. Like, where are you going? Like, what are you going to focus your attention on? So I really liked this big tree. For me, this is one of the most interesting parts of so-called Dude Chillin' Park. So I wanted to get a video and capture that. But I've moved, I have it here. There's some buildings in behind that I, you know, can't really see. So I'll just maybe, I'll put one building, kind of like our Rembrandt image. I'll just sort of throw it in here, and then we've got all of this. There's shade happening here, but maybe I don't know if I even want to include that shading on there, because I don't have the tree casting that shadow. So personally, for me, that is, it doesn't make a lot of sense to try to draw it in there, right? It's almost like I can imagine. Can I zoom in? Can't zoom in on this video. Let me see if I think about it. I don't know if it will let me. It won't let me get any bigger than it is. I was hoping I could just continually zoom in, but that would be a different app. So let's, I've got the basics in here, and let's see this woman's arm here reading this book. Some kind of bathing suit I think she was in. Like, look how, you know, relatively, like loosely I'm drawing here. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to replicate that feeling of holding my sketchbook in my hand. Of course, that just battery goes out right now. Are you kidding me? How long is that possible? I thought this was freshly charged. 1 second here. I think some of those batteries are starting to lose their charge after 40 episodes of drawing and charging and anyway. So what I'm trying to do, maybe I'm gonna switch this here so you can continue to draw that image while I'm talking, is I'm trying to replicate that experience of holding your sketchbook and being out in the landscape. Because when I teach these classes in person, that's what we do. We literally would walk down the road and we would be holding our sketchbooks. Some people sit down and draw. I personally like standing, not because I like the exercise, but there's a different angle, right? When I'm standing looking at things, I'm seeing things from my, standing viewpoint, versus when I'm sitting on the ground, all of a sudden that ground that I see kind of like this comes up here. So it's a very different angle, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it's just a different point of view, I guess. And so I like this particular kind of angle. So I'm trying to draw quickly, because when you're drawing in public, when you're drawing in a park, and especially if you're standing, you don't want to be there for hours. You want to kind of get the drawing done as quickly as possible, or get the main things into place, and then go sit at a coffee shop and finish it, which I've done a lot of that kind of stuff, right? So I'm just going to start laying in some. I'm not even sure I like how I'm drawing this stuff right now. I didn't really start this drawing with a plan. Not that I should have, but maybe I could have been a little, like I'm honestly right now I'm thinking to myself that I'm being a little bit sloppy with my mark making. Maybe it's because the class is kind of getting close. I should be starting to wrap up, so I want to kind of go quickly. So some of these, the stuff that I'm doing here is probably not how I would. Part of me is like, oh no, this is our last drawing of the course. Now, of course, you have to do more sessions to redeem yourself. But right now I'm just filling this up here, and that's another thing too, is if you're working on your drawing and things aren't kind of working out, maybe you just need to build up more density in here, right? This is a big thick tree, it's this tree that sort of gives the impression that it's been there for a couple thousand years, kind of thing, right? So so you can see I'm just trying to, this is the parts of the tree that are kind of disappearing into the right. So like that Rembrandt we looked at, right? You see, he really, like, there's layers and layers and layers of pencil marks in there, and that's what gives it that believable kind of quality, because that's how trees are. Trees are like these really dense, well, I mean, when they have leaves on them anyway, they're full, right? They're full of textures and shapes and lines. So doing kind of what I'm doing here, just kind of muddling it up with more and more lines, is actually quite, you know, like true to the tree itself. So you can't really like mess it up, right? Like there's maybe that's another reason why I like drawing trees, is they're kind of forgiving. You can keep on working on it and keep on loading it up full of stuff. This building is not really there. I'm just taking cues from good old Rembrandt, and which is, you know, is as artists, you know, you get inspired by things, and you know, I find myself, you know, if I'm looking at a lot of one particular artist, you know, that artist's kind of stuff starts bleeding into my own approach, you know, and it just starts kind of coming back out. You know, in the same way, if you watch, you know, a lot of Emeril Lagasse or something, you might start putting more spices into your spaghetti, or okay. And then, you know, there's no clouds in the sky, but maybe to put something in here, I'll put a little cloud up there, or let's say, I remember when I was there, there was a little helicopter flying around. I don't think it's in this video, so I'm just gonna draw that little helicopter flying overhead. Oh my goodness, what have I created? You know, again, I've had people in the comments say, like, they find it quite funny when I'm laughing at my own artwork. My wife says that's quite funny too. And I kind of like that experience as well. It's kind of nice to, you get lost in the drawing, and it starts taking over, and you just start, or I just start doing things. I'm not even really sure what I'm doing. That part of my brain kind of shuts off that is telling me what's right and wrong and good and bad. And, you know, I'm trying a different color now. I have my left hand is sitting in my pocket here as I'm working away, you know, and maybe this drawing isn't going to be the best thing I've ever done. Again, I could go, if I'm not happy with it, rather than trashing it, I pull out that ink again and just go to town on the ink, and maybe I could do something pretty cool with ink on top of it, right? But I really like having the drawing take me for a ride. And you're just like, whoa, where are we going? Whoa, I was not thinking we would end up here today. And yeah, maybe you get there and you're not happy with that particular journey. But sometimes what's really, really exciting is when you just sort of let yourself go, and then you find yourself somewhere really cool. And you're like, whoa, I would not have allowed myself to do that had I been, you know, so fixated on being the one in the driver's seat. Okay, so I'm going to start to finish up here. So I'm just putting these little things of grass here and there. Probably there could be more bushes and trees and things here and there. Right now this is a little bit kind of big clumpy, so maybe I need to kind of go back in here and add a little bit of areas of darkness, or maybe I should just call it a day and go have some dinner. Oh my goodness. Okay, my eyes are starting to get a little bit crossed here, so I think I am going to pull things to a conclusion right here, even though, again, I could probably work on this drawing for another hour or more. Yeah, we're just about, we're pretty much out of time anyway, so, whoo! Thank you everybody for tuning in and for drawing along with me, for keeping me company over this, you know, one of the weirder summers of my life, and I'm sure for everybody, you know, what's great about all this craziness in the world is we've all been in it together. Things aren't totally over though. This is just one chapter ending and another one is starting next week. I would love to see if especially those of you that have been following along for months and months with me, I'd love to see you try the painting. Maybe you don't. Maybe you want to watch the first few. If you're debating whether, you know, I was talking to my mom. She's like, I don't know if I'm going to do the painting. So, you know, maybe watch the first few, see what it's like. You'll see how relatively easy it is, and then that might inspire you to go out and buy some paint and then paint along with me. I know there's like over, I think, 1,000 people who've expressed interest in it, so it's going to be a big class. So it's also, if you want to just dissolve into the background and, you know, and just watch, there's lots of room to hide. Okay. I don't have anything particularly thoughtful as a closing. It's been an adventure, and I'm happy to have had some familiar faces along for the road. Okay, I don't see any of my graphics that I usually put up to end the show. I'm not sure why. That's kind of odd. Let me see where. Add graphics. Okay, here they are. Or there we are. Okay. Oh no, let's add. Get out of here. Okay. So many buttons. Are you kidding me? Okay, there we are. Okay, so I look forward to seeing everybody next week for the painting class. Otherwise, I really hope that this is just the beginning of your drawing and creative journey, that hopefully I've inspired you to make more drawings, to get out and to explore, to draw the world around you, that you don't need to be, you know, to climb Mount Everest to find the greatest inspiration for something to draw. There's things around you, the pencils and scissors and all the little things that are around us all the time. You could spend your whole life drawing them, right? And they're worthy of being drawn, You have the ability. It's not magic, right? Everyone can learn how to draw. It's just practicing some of these fundamental things that we've been doing. And heck, I'm sure you've seen some of you have been able to do better things than I have done, right? So, which is, as a teacher, to see people like exceed and surpass me is ultimately the most exciting thing, is to impart wisdom that I've been given, and then to continue giving that out into the world. So maybe you will carry this forward and start teaching other people, or you can refer them to the videos I've already done. And you know, if you've done all 40 of these classes, you certainly have the ability to draw. And so anybody who says after doing all this that they can't draw is lying to themselves. Frankly, just literally lying to themselves, because you can draw. You can certainly draw better than the vast majority of people, and if they saw the artwork you have produced over the course of the past 5 months, they're already jealous, right? And you can tell them, like, hey, I just followed the instructions and I did it, and just like baking a cake, right? So anyway, you've heard me talk far too long, so take a little bit of a break. I'm sure my voice sneaks into your dreams sometimes, for which I apologize. Have a wonderful evening, everybody, and maybe we'll see you next week in the painting class. Bye-bye.